So this brings up the whole purpose of this seminar. It's built around classical pianists. Classical pianists typically, I've found through the years, have always been afraid of this idiom. To be creative and be inventive on this kind of, they're used to seeing things on the music. They, they rely on muscle memory, and they have enormous um, uh, discipline, but they're relying again on muscle memory. And what we're doing here with the jazz and the popular kind of playing, we're really relying on using options and being inventive and creative. And what happens is the classical pianist brings so much to the table with their skills, with their ability to read. Their technique is up there. They know their scales, and I'm going to show you today in some demonstrations of just how valuable your background is. And I have several of my students right now that are, I would say probably 1/3 are professional level classical pianists, and they're extraordinary. You know, they're doing so well with this particular idiom. And what ends up happening is, well, I'm going to show you a picture again. This is how it all started. Look at this. This is a lecture I did back at Boston University in 1993, I believe. This is me. I was doing a little brief demo of how I teach by correspondence back then. Here's Marti Epstein. This is one of my students that was studying with me. She was at BU. She's writing for Tanglewood. She's an extraordinary pianist. And now this is many years ago, Marti, you know, and she's now a professor at BU and Berklee College of Music. Here's Jennifer, and there's me off to the side with my long hair and, you know, blue pants. But this was at Boston University. I was able to feature classical pianists for this seminar. And what this was, it was titled "Fear Ye Not, the Jazz Idiom," and it was showing classical pianists how these girls had stepped up. Here they are playing 6-hand classical piece, and here they are. They took turns playing a jazz piece, and they talked about how jazz has had an impact in their life with their own teaching and with their own ability to be able to. It's just been. It was kind of eye-opening for them, because they'd come to their lesson and say, well, Dan, you know, I got this gig I can do over at this cafe, and I'm playing classical, but they want to hear some pop tunes. They want to hear, you know, different things, and this is why we're here. So they ended up getting more gigs. They started branching out to teaching that as well. So what happens is, I guess I put on my flyer here that in most cases, the classical pianist will find that this is a great way to build revenue stream. It's almost becoming two people. If you think about it, I'm only doing jazz piano. If someone comes to me and wants to learn classical piano, I have studied it in college, but I have chosen to be an expert in the jazz field. So what this does is it restricts me, because I tap out at just doing my jazz. Anyone classical, I refer them off to a great classical, one of my students of classical music. Now, with a classical musician, you're going to find yourself being able to expand your whole sphere of potentials. We could start off with, you have a student that comes in, they want to learn a show tune from Disney, or they want to learn a Beatles tune, or they want to learn the latest pop tune. And unless you can find the score classically written with bass and treble clef, you're up against it a little bit. So with minimal jazz skills, or should I say contemporary skills, chord playing skills, you're able to now salvage and keep that student and not have to surrender them. And that's a really big thing. It could be the thing that changes that student's life, you know, to the point where, you know, you're able to now offer classical, and you can offer contemporary kind of jazz playing with chords and patterns and such. And it makes you extra valuable. And I've had, in some cases, I've had the teachers that are studying with me that they basically have said, because of their contemporary background, they have now been able to, their revenue stream has increased even more than their classical, because now they're offering that, and it gives them huge credibility if they can do both, you know. So just think about that as a marketing aspect of your business. It's just incredible. It really is. I can't say enough about it. So so that's Marti and Jennifer, and Jennifer she was at Michigan State University. I know Bijan's over there from there. And she did piano performance. She went to BU, graduated BU, and now she's a professor at Berklee. So these two women that I had as students back many years ago. We're talking 35 years ago. And were studying with me. They are off, had tremendous careers, and they're both very active with both idioms. So it's kind of pretty cool. You know, there's so many aspects of jazz piano playing and popular piano playing, and as far as the revenue stream goes, it's something that's a really, really big part of everything we're doing here. You know, I'm trying to just convey how easy it will be, and I will show you in a matter of a short time just how much you can do in this piece of music. Now, the piece of music we're looking at, well, before I forget, I do know what I was going to do. I have this right here. Everyone's going to have different revenue streams going on. Here's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on a couple more books, and here's me and the great Ed Saindon. If anyone hasn't checked this guy out, he's been teaching at Berklee for 45 years. We just did an hour-and-a-half Zoom the other day, and he's talking about his books. He's selling his books online all over the world, and I'm actually in the process of writing books from my library. And here's me showing Ed some of my tricks using these frames on the piano where I'm playing ideas all into one octave and less. So it's kind of, we're able to use Zoom now as a real viable source of connection. And it's been very, very exciting for me. You know, in fact, if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll be able to see all my live streams. And I've done 34 to date. And that was a very, very difficult thing for me. It was like to go through figuring it out and keeping things, getting the high resolution. I'll go over my setup at the end of the seminar and tell you, I mean, I got a beautiful microphone in here, so that's why I can get the good quality, but I'll show you how you can achieve really great quality. But what I want to do is let's jump right on to a little bit about how the classical pianist can take a tune like Moon River. And I used Moon River for an example because it's just a popular piece of music. And I have it here, and I'm going to actually run it through with some really, really great great options, you know, and I'm going to show you how you can add to this based on what you know. And what the classical pianist knows, first of all, they can read. Everyone can read, and you understand. You may or may not know chordal harmony. You might not know the, you might understand how chords are laid out, but you might not know all the inner workings of it. I will be doing other seminars down the road about the chords and the inner workings and improvisation and all, but this is really an eye-opener. I'm going to go through, for those that might understand this, just kind of watch through, and you're going to watch how this thing just grows, and it's like a flower just growing. It's going to be pretty cool. So we're going to start off first with just playing the melody with just the root of the chord, and then I'm going to walk through the different levels. Okay, I'm going to start showing you a little bit here. So watch this. So we're starting off first, if I just play a root in the left hand with a melody. Okay, so that's basically just the root, and it's still a very, very professional level, because I could play fuller. Now watch. So what I just did there is I was able to play a little bit of, you know, a couple of bars there with just the root and the melody. It's the contrast between simple and thick chords and things that make the piano come to life. And this is what really is very exciting about what I'm going to show you. So now, in my book, in a nutshell, this right here, I'm going to show you all. I'm going to give you a crash course, 6 weeks in like 30 seconds or 60 seconds. I'll show you all the chords that are essentially on the piano. And this is, let me show you. So we're taking this right now. If I take this C major 7, okay? It's a little dissonant sounding, but what's happening here is we're taking it one note down from the octave, okay? So then we go to C minor 7, dominant 7, minor 7 flat 5, and augmented 7, 2 notes down from the octave. And then we go to C6, C major 6, C minor 6. It's really cool. So now you're covering all these chord types, which is really cool. So now, watch when I play this with the left hand. Now, this is going to sound a little cryptic because it's going to sound a little dissonant, but when we fill out the chords in the right hand, it sounds great. This is a pro skill. All pro players use this. So we start off. When you see C major 7 over E, we're going to play 2 E's. Then F major 7, sharp 11, you're going to play F major 7, 1 note down from the octave. Now, watch what happens. See, this is right here. I could play it, bounce it. 1, 2. So all I'm doing here is just bouncing these shells. Now, if I fill the shells out at a higher level, watch by keeping this same structure I just showed you. So what's happening here, I'm just playing the shells in the left hand. It supports it. So you want to look at the shells as like a foundation and you're playing. Again, we're going slow here, and you're waiting to see how this thing manifests itself. It's just so exciting for me to be able to put this in front of a classical pianist and have you see that, you know, you can do this, and you can do it better than you can imagine. You know, I mean, it's like it's a matter of just getting over the fear of it and understanding if it's broken down for you, you'll do well. And I'm kind of a master at breaking things down, and I do whole seminars on how to break content down, even from a simple major scale to, you know, to different levels and things. So now we're going on to patterns. So what can happen with the shell is you can put what we call the fifth in here, and this is really kind of cool. So we're taking this right now, and we can go like this: 1, 2, 3. And so I'm basically playing shell to fifth. And what's nice about this, it really kind of starts adding time, and it's being done as a move, as a delayed tone. Okay, so this really is kind of fun. So now we're going to take this, and we are going to now do patterns. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take patterns here, and I'm going to create a pattern using the fifth. So in the process of studying this jazz music, or contemporary music, I should say, we're looking at the fifth is going to something you want to learn. You do it in every key. We get it down so you learn it in every key. And it's chosen from your major scales. So those that know your major scales, which most classical players are very dialed in with this particular fundamental, you're going to be able to figure this out. So now we create patterns from, instead of playing the shell to the fifth, we're going to go. Then we have to play the shell. So what we're taking here is we're just looking at these patterns. Okay, now what we're going to do now is we're going to start adding the third of the chord into the right hand. So what happens here is the third is built off of our scales. So once we know our scales, we're able to look at these thirds and add it to it. So the third of C major 7 is going to be E. Okay, so we're going to go. Now we're going to take the third of A minor, would be the C. Third of F major 7, I'm playing the A down here. Third of C major 7. See what happens now, it becomes a very harmonious kind of experience, because now you're starting adding harmony. So this is where most players are, when they're studying, this is where I feel like well, I'm presenting something in this book. Essentially it started there, but it's I'm going right to a pro level, because I'm playing the shell. When I play at a high level of playing, I'm playing these shells all over the place. I mean, all over, you know. If I take a tune and I play, watch my left hand. Left hand, it's all shells. And people don't realize that, you know, this is, it was taught with just one note down from the octave, and it's the 1 and the 7 of the major scale. So, but now filling out the right hand, you're going to be able to use this. This is like the foundation of the house, okay? So now we can add even more harmony, and we go deeper into the harmony. In my studies, when people study with me, we basically go through with all my students, and we get through, we build these levels. But you'll see in a very, very fast time, you know, a matter of a few lessons, I can get you up and playing to the point where you actually have enough skill that you can actually teach this stuff. Because the average student will spend, I could say, you know, they could spend just learning the shell to the fifth in a melody, could sit there as a beginning chord kind of player, could sit there for a year and working on those skills. And you could just be supplying different tunes and be refining your own skill. As a classical teacher, you want to always stay steps ahead, which it's easy to do, because now then the next level would be putting the thirds in or playing patterns from the shells. And so then we go deeper. So let me show you. So so then we go into adding the ninths, and this is really cool. The ninth is the same as the second, so we go like this. Now we have here. Now look at this for. See this? Then we got. I can go 9 to flat 9, which is really pretty. See this? Now all of a sudden, the chords take on a big, big component, you know, of full pro kind of level playing. So it's a 3. When you start adding the ninth, and you're taking every single chord, and we just add the ninth into the right hand. So what this is doing, it's going over that shell that was sitting there, is this kind of foundation underlying. So anyway, then we go into now, one of the greatest things that people can do is this thing called melodic displacement. And I've been teaching this for decades. I remember playing at the Ritz-Carlton here in Phoenix, and a student of mine came in and says, I'm playing the same tune, and why does your tune, he's a great player, playing all the chords, he's a pro level player, and he's playing the same kind of chords, and he's saying, why does yours sound so much better? It's all due to melodic displacement, and let me show you what that's all about. So if I take this tune right now, and this is where the classical musician will find this just fascinating, because they're so used to having everything looking at a particular thing on a music. You say, well, you came in on the and of 1, or you're coming in on the and of 3 early, and it's like it's not written there. So in this case, we're going to be able to make some. This is where the beginning of the improvisational aspect starts. It's just taking the existing melody that's written, and you're going to put expression and detachment into your right hand, which gives, they work together, but they're very independent. So the right hand can sing better. So watch this. If I take this right now, and I'm playing, I could play it strict first. Now, a little bit more of a delay. So what I'm doing here is, by having that little bit of a delay or an anticipation when you're jumping in, it gives it much more. So just that little bit of delay, it makes the right hand become a singer. It sings out, and it almost gives you this third element, you know, in your playing. It is probably, it's a lot harder to do than it looks. People try it and they're like, wow, it's so weird, because what ends up happening is that their left hand wants to start going in sooner or you know, or later, and you have to really have this independent control. So when you're playing, you know, your left hand's going to have a steady control, and your right hand becomes that independent floating kind of thing. So that's called melodic displacement. I have all kinds of studies on this and exercises to kind of get students dialed in with this. But I find this one particularly interesting for the classical pianists. And so I'm going to show you something right now with the, no, not yet with the improvisation. I'm going to go to chord tones first. Okay, chord tones now. When we start improvisation, what you're doing when you improvise around on the piano and create your own extra things on a piece of music is it starts with the chord tones, you know. A lot of people think it starts with scales, and that's true too, it's another component. But if I take right now Moon River, and for those that might know what the chord tones are in a C major 7, we're going to just take on the chord, what I call the compression, is where the shell is, where that chord is, we are going to change that particular chord tone to another chord tone in the chord, and watch how it changes the melody. This is the beginning level of improvisation that gets you to the point where you're saying, wow, I can choose to play what's written, or I can change that to any one of those other 3 chord tones or 4 chord tones, if it have whatever the situation is. So let me show you. And we take this right now, and we're going to take, instead of playing the G, this is the chord tones of a C major 7. So we could choose the E, the B, or the C. So if I chose the B, I could play like, and on instead of this D7, I could play a G, and then I could play, instead of this B and the F major 7, I could play the E, and here I can go. So I'm just using all chord tones. So it makes the tune all of a sudden take on a new character. It takes on a whole new melody. And what's even better is if you get to the point where you can do it spontaneously and not have it be worked out. This is where I have, you know, some of my students that are sitting out there would probably attest to this. You know, when you first start out being a classical player, and they send their lesson in to me, you know, and it sounds really great, and all of a sudden the camera picked up that they wrote out everything. They're going in and they're writing all the notes in there, and of course it sounds really great, but the whole aspect of what I'm doing here is every time you pass through this, it could be different. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to take just a few bars here, and I'll show you how I can just make it different every single time. I could take this thing and play like a... I could do it again. I can go up the piano. Watch if I just go up the piano grabbing chord tones. So what I'm doing there is now I'm starting to pull lines up the piano using chord tones. Again, hard to do initially because you have to know your chord tones, but very doable. And the chord tones are built from what classical pianists are known for, is being able to have that fundamental of playing scales. So that's a really, really big deal. Now, now speaking of scales, okay, now this is something I was very blessed to be studying with Harvey Diamond, who was kind of the last of the students of the great Lennie Tristano. Lennie Tristano was a blind pianist, very well known in the history of jazz music, from New York. And it was a wild experience for me. And when I show this to classical pianists, they just can't believe this, what I'm going to show you right now. When you're playing jazz piano, when you're whipping around the piano and you are putting stuff in, you are, you know, what you got to do here is you're going to be looking at really all your options when you play this. Watch this, watch this. There's different fingerings when you start improvising around. Now watch when I call hand blocked right here. Say I want to go higher. So I'm here again, hand blocked. If I want to go up. So what this is, there's 7 different fingerings that we're going to be looking at, okay? And this was taught to me, and everything's done contrary motion. Now remind you, I went through at Berklee College of Music, I did the 8th notes, I did the triplets, I did the 16ths, I did the thirds, I did the 6ths, I did all that traditional parallel motion. Now, what this does, everything's done contrary motion, and we get into this, and a lot of people hear me have, because I have quite a bit of technique, and they say, well, Dan, you must play a lot of classical music, you know? And that's another topic. I played a little bit in college, and but not to the level, of course, of a lot of the skilled, high-trained, you know, classical pianists. So I chose the jazz path, and that's where I put my energy in. But I got all my technique from doing these scales and having the facility to be able to guide myself around. So let me show you what these scale fingerings are, and this is an eye-opener. It's almost taboo in the classical world. However, one of the 7 fingerings is the classical fingering. So it's not in any way demoted, you know, it's like it's still acknowledged. But what ends up happening is when you're improvising around the piano, even if you're playing a simple thing on like Moon River, you're playing. Watch how my hand just kind of. So I'm able to move around. If I go here, so I'm able to kind of continue my ideas with different fingerings. So let me show you the fingerings really quickly. And again, this is done in my studies, but this is a wild situation, and it gives you enormous technique. I mean, it's like, and it's a very awkward thing. But anyway, you start off here with, we're going to start off with 1-2s, okay? And we always go to the end of the piano and back, okay? Then we're going to go to 4-5s. Wrist turn. Only one direction there. Then we go to 1-2-3s. 2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2. Up and back. Then we go to 3-4-5s. 3-4-5, 3-4-5, 3-4-5. Then we go to 1-2, 1-2-3s. 1-2, 1-2, 3. And then we go to 3-4-5, 4-5s, and then we do the classical fingering. We do 1 against 1, and then we're going to go to 2 against 1. We get into this kind of thing, where you get into like 3 against 1, 4 against 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we do 3 against 2, 5 against 2, 7 against 2. And you do that with all 7 fingerings. Now, you can imagine the immense control and the technique that you can develop from doing this. This is just insane. It was so valuable. Because when you're playing music, it's that separation of that 3 against 2 and that 5 against 2 and the 7 against 2. We're going back to my melodic displacement when you're taking things. You take this, watch if I delay this thing over at Moon River. This is cool. We're taking a. So what I'm doing there is I'm applying these rhythms that I practiced in scales on Moon River. So the feeling of that separation becomes very, very prevalent. So where the fingering works out really nice is you won't have that hand lock. A typical classical trained player, and again, the 7th fingering is the classical fingering, by the way. So a classical player will get hand locked. They stop there. What they do is they'll carry their line down. If they're improvising, they'll play. They improvise down, they would sit. And then they get here, and they'll often turn their ideas back. So their ideas come back because they're hand-locked. But if their mind's telling them, oh, I want to go higher, well, you can go higher, okay? So this is something that I find to be very, very valuable, okay? So then I get into this thing where I show you, again, on...
Hey, Dan?
Yes? Go ahead.
I don't know if you're, I just want to jump in. I don't know if you're ready to take questions yet, but we do have a question from...
Oh, good. I'm glad you let me know that. Okay, so what do we got?
So she asks, Dan, I am noticing that you play many songs from the American Songbook. Moon River is one of those songs. How do you choose which songs to play out of that songbook?
Oh, good. Okay, good question. Okay, this is this particular one I happen to use because it's sitting pretty easy in the key of C, and the chord structures are going to be kind of making it easier for you. But when you learn the shells, and you know C major 7 is this left hand, it doesn't matter what piece of music you're looking at. You could play anything. So you could take, as time goes by, you can play anything you want, and you can apply it. So it really, this just happens to be, if you look at my live streams, 34 live streams, I try to do different tunes. It's like 34 hours of solo piano playing. So it's kind of, I kind of think about it, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of tunes, man. You know, so what I do is I pick different things, and often, sometimes the newer material that I play that I haven't played in a long time becomes it's like my favorite new tune, even though I haven't played it in 10 years. So it's, I can't really say, there'll be certain tunes, of course, that when you're starting out, that you want to be careful about choosing, that might be very, very difficult to read. So you stay away from that, anything in some, maybe, you're going to find the keys aren't going to be that much of an issue once you know your shells and you can control. Because everything I teach is all built around knowing 12 keys, understanding the 12 keys, chords in 12 keys, thirds in all 12 keys, fifths in all 12 keys, okay? Any more questions, you can check in Bijan, we'll filter them out and interrupt me, and we'll get them to get to you, okay? All right, so now, wait until you see this. Improvisation, you're probably saying, how do you improvise on the piano, okay? This is pretty wild, because what happens with improvisation is if you're taking a basic C scale, okay, and again, this is spontaneous, nothing is preset here. So I'm just going to put a gap in the C scale. Watch this. I'm taking, come down with the B flat major scale. Now if I go through all keys, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D. So all I'm doing is I'm playing a major scale, but I'm just skipping over notes, and it's very, very random and spontaneous. Where it starts becoming really interesting is I can take, this is a skill I use often when you see this aspect. This is, I take these cards and I do these frames. Now, watch this. This is great for good players too, the players that have been playing a long time, because they can see this. So now, say I'm going to take, just go through all the major 7 chords. Now watch this. I can go through F major 7, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G. Then I can go, check this out, even harder. F, B flat, E flat, A flat. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using the notes from the scale, and it's a way to start improvising on the piano. It's like, it's amazing. It really is. And you have the facility to be able to do this. Now, what we do in a tune like Moon River, just for kicks, the first 7 bars here are all going to be the C scale. And we're not going to get into the modes and Locrian and Lydian and all this stuff right now, but that's why I chose this tune. So go back to that question. This is a good one because I can actually improvise around using C major scale, and watch how cool this is, okay? Now I could take this right now and play like, then we have to go to E7, so I got to get the G sharp in there. I can play like, I'll be like, I can do anything I want. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the C scale, and I'm taking it and I'm just breaking it into little fragments. But there's nothing here. I couldn't tell you, if someone said, I'll give you $1 million to play that last bar. I don't know what I just did. I think I went, da, 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 da. I did something, but it's like, it usually comes off the hand and it's gone, And that's what's very exciting when you play this kind of idiom. Now, there's all these aspects of what, I could use the word jazz or popular or contemporary, because you can play these tunes differently. If I'm playing Moon River on a gig, every night, say some person comes in and say, hey man, can you play my favorite tune again? He's coming in every night and he's like having his steak on the side of the piano. But anyway, so watch this. We get into this kind of thing where I could play at one time. I go like, and the next night he might come in, I might play. Or I might play. So you can play it different ways all the time. So it keeps it really fresh and fun, you know, it's for the player and for the audience. And this is the other thing too that you'll find that from playing this music, and I've done a million gigs it seems, in my life. And what ends up happening is when you have you're out there gigging all the time, and by playing fresh and new stuff all the time, it's, you know, who will make you lose your gig is the help that's there. A lot of times, oh man, he's playing the same tunes every night. If you get inventive and creative with this stuff, you can do well. I've seen students that were, as they become more and more inventive with their playing, can have even a smaller repertoire and still hold the gig. It's when they're playing the same kind of arrangements and same things, where the, you know, the wait staff and the managers are hearing the same tunes and the same arrangements of things, where I can go in and make it different every single night. And it gives me a lot of longevity in my career. I remember, this goes back to when I got called to play years ago. This was, I mean, I'm talking, I was a kid, I was in my 20s. And they just started doing the pianos in the malls in Boston. So there was like 3 or 4 of us in town that can sit there and really whip around the piano and play Silent Night for 10 minutes, you know, kind of thing. And because what they wanted us to do, they gave us a 4-hour gig to play only Christmas tunes for the mall, in the mall. And so how many can you think of? 20, 30, 35, 40 maybe. But you know, you play them and you play them through really quick. You can, you know, you got to fill a 4-hour gig. So you're sitting down and you really want to try to get creative and take it into a journey, you know, and people are like, wow, they're sitting around, well, this is a Silent Night, listen to this, you know. So this is where the inventiveness in this kind of music becomes very, very fun. And it's not that far away. You saw how easy, how beautiful this was on Moon River to play, you know, just the C scale, you know. Now, let me show you something that I teach. It's called my texture release. And what texture release is I'm taking the scale and we're putting the gaps in it. This is getting a little harder now, so watch this. I'm going to add a texture. A texture is going to be narrow, which would be here, or wide. Okay? And when I'm going up the C scale, I'm typically going to watch out for the 4, because the 4 is a void note. But in our studies, we get into this. But watch how I can add so much with this now. All I'm doing there, if I'm going up a C scale, watch what it looks like. Texture, release, texture, release, texture, release. It's one of the most beautiful skills, and you won't find this on YouTube, you won't find it anywhere. It's only something I teach. And I think it's one of the greatest things, and it's using availabilities. And its best part, it's using the stuff classical players know how to do already. So I can show you how to do things like this, where you're actually, I call it textures. It's another word for intervals. I have my own language, you know, so to speak. So what we can do here, now watch, underneath the melody of Moon River, I can take these textures. Let's not improvise right now, but we're going to take what I call movement underneath now. We're going to put movement using these textures. Now watch. So all I'm doing here is I'm playing, and I can play anything under here. Play this, I can play different colors. It's so beautiful, and it's like, you know, and it's attainable. And here's the thing that you're going to find, and I know there's some pro players out here too that have a lot of background. And again, this is stuff that that intertonal movement is so valuable. It's so valuable. When I talk about intertonal movement, it's instead of playing the tune and holding it, still sounds good. As soon as you add the motion in it, When people listen to solo piano, they want to be able to hear it, almost like you want to feel the time. All that inner line stuff, all I'm doing is I'm taking stuff inside my hand, and it adds another whole characteristic to it. You listen to the great Keith Jarrett. You know, he does a solo piano thing that he did a few years ago, and it's just remarkable. He does tunes like Danny Boy and stuff, and all this inner movement. It adds so much magic to the music. So so anyway, that's intertonal movement, and that's that can be done all sorts of, in all sorts of ways, inside, and I get into all kinds of exercises on it. We also have, so that texture release is a really big deal. Now, I'm going to talk about clusters, again, built off of scales. And this is something that we're kind of going deeper beyond the textures now. And what clusters are is we can go anything from 2 to what I call a full load on the right hand. And this is where the pro players out there that maybe are studying or have their own style and stuff, this is where something they can pick up. So some of this stuff might be very, very advanced. So I'm giving you kind of a really big overview really fast. So please understand that, hang with me here. If nothing else, even a beginner student would like to see this. I know for me, when I was studying jazz piano, if I was seeing all this stuff right now, it would encourage me to say, I can do that someday, I don't have to do it right now. I mean, but at least it's going to be broken down in such a way. So we're taking this right now in my right hand. Watch how I'm filling out the right hand. So now it's all that stuff in here. Now I could take the same thing and put all the movement. I could compress everything. So I'm playing all this kind of big stuff here, and it's all built off scale. So sometimes when you're playing in a gig, and sometimes I look over at the bass player, and I could go over there and just kid around and just say, okay, I'm playing like a C7, and I'm playing all these black notes, or I'm playing a C major 7, and I'm playing all these things, and he looks at you like, we just kind of have a chuckle because it's all these notes work. And then you can decide how deep. And sometimes playing single notes and then thick is good. It's a mixture that makes it really, sparkle on the piano, and it gives a character to your playing, so you're not playing everything with the same kind of density. And then we get into things like if you're backing a singer. This is a great thing to be looking at. Let me show you this. This is using a card again. What singers, and I think is Dawn out there. Dawn's a great singer, by the way. Dawn Powers. Yeah, she's and anyway, so there's certain singers out there that people want to accompany themselves. The biggest mistake people will do as accompanists is they use too much of the piano. They go up too high and they get in the way of the singer. So here's what we do. Watch this. So nothing higher. See, so I'm keeping everything there. As soon as you start going high and you play up here, you're in their way. So keep it. I even do exercises to keep everyone here, and they play the chords all here. And you can, we look here, this is called voice leading. Now what voice leading is, we take a C major 7, and we're going to go to A minor 7. G still part of the A minor 7, so you can stay there. F major 7, G still part of the F major 7, it's the second. C major 7. See how it gets really kind of cool. So everything can be like a. And I can move that top note just a little bit to give it a singing quality. Be like. I can move it down there and find holes in and around the singer to be able to not get in their way and step on them, So that's just another way of taking scales and processing the stuff down. Any questions out there? We have any questions, Bijan? covering a lot of stuff, so it's like,
Yeah, not in the chat yet, but if anybody has any questions.
if anyone has anything, please chime in and we'll address it. So that's pretty much the overview of Moon Rivers. Now we can get into a thing called counterpoint, and these are very advanced things. So again, it's eye-opening enough to say, well, maybe I can do that. Now watch what I mean by that. So we take counterpoint now with the left hand. So we take into this. Gets into just counter lines, and this is from that scale study we do, we get used to going higher. Now watch how I use the different fingering here. I'm kind of going all over the place here, but it's all, again, pertinent to the scale. The easy one to see is just a C major 7 to start off. A minor 7, same key scale. F major 7. Then I'll put in the texture releases. You see? So again, that's going into that. It feeds itself right into texture release and those things that I teach. So then we can get involved with playing what we call stride piano. And stride piano is a blast to play. It's so fun. It's so fun. And what it is, you play a root, you come up to a chord, and watch this. Okay. So we're going to go here. 1, 2, 3. So I can get into the. I can put anything from 2 notes to 3 notes to 5 notes. 2 notes. 2, 3. Then I can go to the chord. Now I can mix up stride with their chord playing. 1, 2, 3. Now watch this with the thirds. One of the early levels we talked about. Okay, now I'm going to put in fuller, back to stride, stride, in a tonal movement to texture release. And you'll get to the point where you can, this is such a high level for your typical teaching. So for those that might say, well, I can't never teach this, or I can't never learn, you can do this. And you're going to be able to have students that will take so long to get to that particular level that you're going to always stay those 10 steps ahead that are going to really make this thing work for you. So it's a big deal. So I can't say enough about understanding the various levels, and I want to make everyone understand that it might look a little daunting right now, but I can assure you, in my video teaching, I teach by video correspondence. For those that don't, well, you saw all my things. I've been doing this a long time. I've probably been doing it as long as anyone in the world, so I'm very fortunate to have been around this, and I'm going to soon get into all my setup here, and I got some really cool things to show you. So, but the whole idea of teaching by correspondence, for me, has been a better experience. And this is, again, going back to the virtual form of teaching right now, because people are asking me, are you ever going to teach in person again? I'll tell you the story, what ended up really a pretty exciting story. I had a student here. I live right here in Arizona. He's a snowbird. Wonderful, wonderful man, 73 years old. He was in his late 60s, I think, when we first met. But he's retired, and he has a house in Montana, and he has a Steinway B here and a Steinway D in Montana. So he said, please, Dan, can I see you in person? He lives like 3 miles from my house. So I just said, my heart went out to this guy. I said, I'm going to help him out. All right, Jim, come on over. So again, he came to my house, And, you know, and I get, it was $100 an hour for my teaching privately in my home, you know, kind of thing. So he was here, and it was, it was time for him to go back to Montana. And I said, well, the only thing you could do, Jim, is do my correspondence now. This guy now, he became a very dear friend. He's on my testimonials on my website at pianoinstruction.com, Jim Coles. He is an avid fan of the correspondence, like a lot of my students. They have to experience this to really believe it. Students are playing for me. I critique it personally. These are personal lessons. Then I go into my library that I've shot for years, and it's like every single video in PDF is like 2 hours of my work, that they're getting that, and they can watch me play their entire lesson at their level. So and we're so used to teaching as teachers out there, all the teachers that are here. You teach, and you have, how much time you have to spend the next lesson to go over what you already did. And it's like this, you don't have to do that, because they have the videos and they watch it. Occasionally I have a question and say, what are you doing this minor 7 flat 5? So I, just to be a stickler, I said, well, if you go into the video, it's 7 minutes and 12 seconds, you'll see exactly what to do. You know, so they go back in and they can see it was in the video. So I feel like I give a more comprehensive program. And the best part is I offer, and you can get by with 1 lesson a month or bi-weekly. And the reason it's very advantageous is it's more affordable than someone that would pay weekly, and you know, it kind of works out as a win for everyone. It helps me be able to get the exposure. I keep it very limited, and I want to remind everyone too, if anyone here is interested in doing any studying, which you're seeing all here, I have some students on board here that will, I'm sure, chime in and be able to say, you know, kind of what kind of experience this is. Some of them in a long time. I see Alex out there. He's a, you know, very good student. So you know, and it can be beginning level or it can be pro level. You know, the beginners, sometimes people say, well, you don't want to take me because I just got your book and I'm not ready for this yet. Well, you know what? I can get you through the book. I'll take you through the book. You don't need to go through the book on your own and then come to me. I'll take you through the book, and you study with the author right now here, and I'll get you through it really fast. So beginners sometimes are the best students because they're learning the right way. The hardest student to get is like that guy I had, his Jim, wonderful, wonderful person, and he was like, and he had all his old stuff, all working, playing all his tunes in F, and I had to go fix him, and I was giving him stuff in different keys. He's playing better than you ever can imagine now, because I took him out of his comfort zones and showed him what he really could be doing. So anyway, anyone interested, I'll be more than happy to get anyone out there a one-on-one Zoom time privately, and we can talk about this, and you know, I can tell you more how it works and assess your playing and tell you how I can help you. So this is a big part of the reason I'm doing this, because of the COVID with gigs being kind of gone. And my dear friend Joe Costello's out here, and he's one of the, not only a great musician, but he's a great businessman. And I just speaking of Joe, put a plug in for Joe. He's Making Money in Music is one of his, you can find Joe Costello online, look him up. He's got a really interesting concept, and he's out really promoting music to the fullest. I just was on a featured panel recently with 4 other really skilled teachers. So we all talked about how we make a living in music, you know. So it was really cool. So anyway, kudos to Joe. He's been my good friend and my agent, you know, for a lot of years. But you know, the gigs are kind of subdued. There's nothing really on the books, and I'm finding that I'm really enjoying the virtual teaching. So the virtual teaching is something I want to go down now. If everyone's ready for this, this is pretty wild.
Dan,
yep. Okay.
Well, there's another question that came in. Elizabeth iPad asks, how much are Dan's 2 method books?
Oh, this is there found. This is the bargain of the century, and this is where Ed Saindon's telling me now he's getting $80 for his books, you know, because you know he's the great Ed Saindon. Well, I'm the great Dan Delaney, but this is going through a sterling book publisher. This is not just me. This is I think they're like $10, $12 for the book, for each book. The best part of it is what I had done is all the videos are on my website at pianoinstruction.com for free. So talk about not only do you get the book, but you know where it becomes a real win is you can watch me play the whole book on videos. You know, so it's really it's pretty valuable. So it's a great way to get exposure to it. In fact, Bijan, maybe you can explain something. Now, Bijan is a very, very skilled player. I mean, he is not only he's a close friend. But you might have seen me and Bijan do the New Year's gig. Now, tell you a little bit about Bijan, classical prodigy in Orange County. He was featured in my office. I had an office in Laguna Beach where I was I was working in a real estate office, but I had a Baldwin 9-footer in my office. And it was like so I was this freak real estate piano player. But anyway, I started a nonprofit organization and I was featuring these prodigies. That's how I got to know Bijan. But Bijan heard me play with my trio there, and he says, I want to play jazz piano like Dan. I lit his fire. He was 16 years old at the time. A few months later, he comes in playing a whole Kenny Barron solo, like note for note, orally. I'm like, what? It's like, what is going on with this kid? So anyway, I knew he had a brilliant future. He went off and got a full-blown scholarship at Music Institute in New York. And and then he's graduated. Now he's teaching at Michigan State University, teaching jazz piano. So Bijan might be able to say a few things about it because I just turned him on to my book and some of my skills that he's now teaching his advanced players, my 9/1, my texture release, all the patterns. But the skills in the books is something that from someone skilled and seasoned might be able to say a few words on that.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's a piggyback off of just how I met Dan quickly. I didn't have the privilege to study personally with Dan, but when I heard him when I was young in California, like he said, it sort of lit my fire immediately, and that sort of inspired me to go down this jazz journey from there. And one of the difficulties about jazz is how sort of messy the learning process can be, and both as a student and as a teacher now, I've seen how disorganized sort of the jazz education methods are out there specifically for jazz piano. And I also teach a part of jazzpianoschool.com. I teach piano classes at Michigan State University and privately to many students. And I've seen a lot of these methods that get taught. And by looking, just recently I got hip to Dan's 2 books, his beginner book and intermediate book. I can honestly say, not just because he's a great friend, but it is seriously the most comprehensive method I've seen of jazz piano education. It really doesn't skip any steps, and it gets you to be playing immediately. Some of the methods that he teaches are quite different from what's out there, and it's not in a bad way, actually in a very good way, because it allows you to play immediately. He teaches you the way that he learned playing through stride piano and everything, so I can't say enough about it. And I've translated some of his, I've stolen some of his skills, and I teach it myself now too. So just kudos to Dan. And yeah, that book, of course, I think studying with Dan is like the ultimate experience. But the books of his are also very cheap, and he has all those videos on his website for free. So yeah, just shout out to Dan.
Thanks, bud. Yeah. Well, I paid him to say that, so it's like, I'll send a check in the mail. No. It's like he's it's nice to get another perspective on it because I'm always kind of I'm writing a book right now, and you got to hear about this one. Before we get into this other thing, I'm writing a book called The Music Teacher. I've been writing it for years, 10 years, over 220 tips of everything I've ever seen teaching piano. Everything from teaching the ADD student to how to make money on a gig and how to present yourself in a gig and how to it just goes on and on and on and on. 225 tips, and I have it with an editor right now. I'm going to self-publish it, and that's going to be what a workshop that will be, because I talk about every single scenario I've ever seen. Student walking in with a bad back, with broken hand, catastrophic situation, and you turn a negative into a positive, and just how things can turn around. So I'm excited about that. But you always want to have, this book is great, and the great thing about this, for people that are waiting to study with me, because these select students that I work with right now, I'm only doing like 12 students a week. That's all I'm doing with my personal correspondence. This is a very, very elite program, and it can be done. You don't necessarily have to go to the book first. I can take you right from square one, But for the classical players too, and it's initially my audience today was the. I can assure you, I'll have you playing. You won't even believe it. It's like very, very quickly. So now I want to get into my setup. Okay, now I've been kind of a techie guy, but not really. Bijan's more techie than me. He's showing me how to get my video preferences in Zoom. So now what I'm going to show you is I had to do this live stream thing. So if you haven't seen my live streams, go to my YouTube channel. I get 34. It's in a live stream playlist. You can see all of them. All the tunes are indexed. It's really, really fun. What the great thing about this is, and I'm sure Joe Costello, a great agent, and and I'm sure he's seeing this with a lot of people right now, is I go play a gig, and I do my gig, and sure you meet people and you get students from that and all. I do a live stream. I just got a student in Sweden. I got another one in Italy. I get people from all over the world. So you do a live stream and you're hitting an audience all over the world. So it does give you a little bit of traction. So I'm trying to do one live stream a month, and I'm going to continue that going as part of my own growth. And as a serious musician, I'm telling you that right now, that teaching has to be a big part of your survival. I mean, it's like every great player I know is teaching. I mean, there's a few, I should say, exceptions that have really hit it big and they're off doing it, but there's limitations with the gigging scene. So those who are teaching, there's great, great potential. And especially now, if you can play classical and now you can offer this kind of stuff, it's like having two people in the studio working. You're going to absolutely increase your revenue stream. I would bet anything on it. You can almost guarantee it, And more importantly, you keep the students that would actually take off and study with me instead of staying with you, that you can show them all this stuff, So anyway, what I'm going to show you right now, as far as the live stream goes, I had to get very comfortable with it. It was a giant process, and I'm going to show you my setup. It's pretty elaborate, but it's not it's not out of space. The only thing I have a very expensive Earthworks microphone in here on my piano. That's why my piano sounds really good, So it really is pretty amazing. The mic is like $4,000 on the mic, but I'm an artist for the company, so I have this microphone here. So it's on all my videos. It's been a great thing. And then
Dan,
yeah, go ahead.
You do have another question from
Okay.
Nora here. She asks, maybe you could ask Dan if he has been able to be vaccinated. Dan, let this old lady in today. I gave up the piano for guitar at the age of 12, but last year I was able to start playing using Dan's books. If I substitute teach again, I may be asked to teach music for one day. Middle schoolers would love jazz.
Yeah. I haven't been vaccinated yet. I'm not quite old enough, but I guess I'm coming soon. Coming soon. But it's I think I'll be 64 next month. So I try to stay as young as I can, at least mentally. But anyway, yes, Nora, you'd be able to teach if you need to have a lot of times if you're teaching this chord stuff. Of course, the better you can apply yourself, it's the students want to see you be able to get around and do the stuff. So as long as you feel comfortable enough about your own playing, for sure you can get out there and share it. Again, my books are geared for adult learners. These are not for kids. Okay, just keep that in mind too. This is more of an adult kind of learning scene. Now, so anyway, you're going to see me live streams. Make sure you apply to my YouTube channel and subscribe there, and I'll be able to let you know when the next ones are coming up. And I'm also going to be doing more of these lectures. I have chords, the inner and outer workings. That's unbelievable. It is so cool. And then I have another one, improvisation, revealing the mystery of improvisation. It's really wild, and I get into all kinds of improvisational skills. And it's more for players out there. And so those are always I have other seminars, how to play for singers. I mean, I have a series of like 10 that I was doing all over Orange County and over here in Arizona. And so it's something I think with this this kind of attendance here, looks like we get 17, and I really appreciate everyone coming in and hanging out. It's really really fun. So I'm going to go over my setup here. Now I'm using what let me show you this right now. This is cool. I'm going in right now to technology. Here we go. Now, this is me over in Laguna Beach over the summer, and with this is my travel setup, okay? And I have my Kurzweil. I'm using the Ravenscroft piano, and it's really fun. Again, a lot of wires, a lot of. There's my switcher right there, with the red lights on it. That's the switcher, how I switch the cameras. And this is a scary shot, so please don't. it looks really neat and clean when you see the video, but this is what really it looks like behind the scene. But no, I'll show you in my house. It's actually very nice, and it's right off my living room. Here's when I'm traveling. I have a little portable piano. I have my switcher there and that little stool, my laptop, 2 cameras. Here's my house here. This little monitor is a key component of my setup because I use this to watch what I'm playing. I can monitor my levels and everything, and I can run up to 4 cameras on my switcher. There's me with a suit on and my piano, and this is without the backdrop, and I'm going to talk about that component. So, and here's my switcher. This is the ATEM Mini Pro, and I'll explain the differences between these. This is a switcher. These are my lights. This is the #1 thing that everyone deals with, lighting. It's an issue. You see how good my lighting is here in the studio? I'm using in this big Chinese lantern from World Market. I'm using a 150-watt Reveal, specifically the Reveal. It's a color wattage, and it works out beautifully. It diffuses the light. This other black thing over here to the side, I'll show you what that does. It gives me that night. If you watch my Ballad of the Night on Instagram, you'll see that kind of really cool kind of spotlight vibe. I covered it with this, like a blanket, like a felt, and I have the pinhole. There's my cameras mounted to the ceiling. So now you can see this on, so you can see this now. This is a curtain. #1, this is my big iMac where I do all my editing. First thing you want to get, I mean, for me, it worked out really good because there's nothing worse than studying with someone and having, you know, cables and wires and things and, you know, stuff on the side. You know, it kind of keeps everyone focused. Now, the other thing I do here is if you look at the floor. Now, right here, I'm in a very southwestern house. Okay, watch this. All right, let's see if I go over to here now. See, I have saltile tile. So I cover it with a blanket, and I take my black piece of felt. They're great. I use them everywhere, and now when I teach, the piano is not being distracted with other colors on the ground. This is very, very cool, you know. So that's another really, really big part of this. And so anyway, you get the ATEM and the light. So now the ATEM, I'm going to show you this. This is my travel. I feel like James Bond, you know. So anyway, this is kind of cool. And when I travel, here's what it looks like. Let me show you. So I have this right here. If you can see in here, here's another one of these switches. They multiply in this house, just like my pianos. No, this is the ATEM. This is like $300, $299. It is fabulous. I mean, I'm able to come out USB. You can go right into Zoom, and you can connect all the cameras with HDMI in the back. And these are my cameras. I have extra cameras in here. And I travel. I just take this, and I go check into a hotel or wherever I'm going to be. If I'm going to be doing any traveling in Europe and playing and stuff, I can take and still do my lessons. Everything I need is in that. I have my small portable piano, and I can go anywhere. So it's really great. Now, the other things that really work out really nice, I want to make sure I don't forgetting anything. When teaching, it's the biggest thing is about time too. And I'm trying to stay on time, speaking of time here. Big digital timer. There's nothing better when you start shooting a lesson and you can see how much time you're on. A lot of times you're using the clock on the Zoom or something. This is just so good because it keeps you really dialed in and on topic. So when you are doing a lesson, to be able to say, okay, my introductions that I give to my students are 15 minutes in length. I have this going, so I can at an eyesight, I know how to make sure I can cover everything in that 15-minute critique and assessment. This is a key component. It was $7 on Amazon. Now, cameras. These happen to be pretty high-end cameras. This is a $600 camcorder in front of me. This one overhead is a pretty expensive one. They're probably cheaper now. This one over here is $110. Same as this. Okay? Camcorders. This is a Canon camcorder. You can find these for $100 or less. They have HDMI coming out, goes right into the ATEM switcher, and you get full control of these things. Here's the best piece of advice I can give you. When you're setting up cameras for your virtual setup, everyone uses these tripods, and the tripods take up all this real estate on your floor. Everyone has mic stands around, or get a mic stand. They're $20. You can get them with a boom. To be able to throw that camera overhead, if you look back in this on my technology one, I have these boom cameras, and I'm using this right here and a mic clip. I go right into the mic clip with this. So it's a fabulous thing. It's one, and I have it on front. I have it on the cameras on top. And if I go to, let me show you that aspect again because it's really, really important. I think this is a lifesaver for people. It really is. See, there's a boom stand behind me. Look at that. And the camera's sitting in a mic clip. And look at the one in front. I have a little round stand, so I don't have this big tripod thing sitting out in front of the piano. This is probably one of the coolest things I've ever come across for myself, and it took a lot of time to figure it out and stumble on it. But this is a key component. We also have I have a Sennheiser here. This is a lapel mic. This is very expensive, a few $100s. And it's cool, it's body pack, it sounds great. But what I'm using here now, this is a $40 called Power DeWise. Power DeWise. And it has a really long cable, it's wired, and I go right into the ATEM Mini Pro. The ATEM Mini, you can get the ATEM Mini. If you think about this for your virtual teaching, to have something that looks this good and have the lights are $20 a piece with the bulbs, you know, and a mic stand. You can get a mic stand to hang these things over a direct, so you have diffused light. You don't have any glare on the piano. It's really great, you know. So, and then the cameras you can find for piano. I find that I'm running 3 right now, but you only need 2 at most to have 2 different angles. You can keep your eyes out for older camcorders that have HDMI, and you're done, you know. And then the switcher, you don't need to use these switchers. The switcher is a really great thing to have, but it's again, for $300, I think it was the greatest investment ever, because years ago when I was filming, my switcher was $2,500 25, 30 years ago. I mean, it was like they were that expensive. So what they've been able to do now to be able to allow this, and I can even do fades where I can get into this kind of thing where I can fade out, fade back in. I can dissolve between scenes. I can set the dissolves. I can do the picture-in-picture. I can do this where I can resize this and move it around. So it's like, I feel like it should be a sales rep for this thing. It's like, I love it. I love mine so much. I got the little one first. And then what this one does, the bigger one does, it allows me to go right to my live stream from the machine instead of pushing my computer and having the computer, all the fans go on and have the thing being, because by the time I'm running software and everything and going streaming to the computer, these little boxes enable to do that. And the best thing with this is I can record out of this. But in your case, if you're using Zoom, you can use the $300 one and you can record in Zoom if you wanted to record the lesson for your student, you know. So that's another great thing. So let's see what else there is.
Hey, Dan?
Yeah, go ahead.
You have a question from
Okay.
Lyzun Lee asks,
Okay.
what's the stick called that you use instead of a tripod?
Oh, well, first of all, to the mic stand. This little thing here, they're like $2, you know, and I found them. It came with my Zoom H4n recorder. So if you go on and if you find, I'm not even sure what they're called. It's like a little dowel, and it goes right into the mic clip, and it's a universal thing. It screws right onto the bottom of any camera. So it's I really don't know what it is. I found them on B&H Photo, and in New York, and I bought a whole bunch of them. I have them when I travel, and I have a mic stands, and I just stick the mic stand. And what a great way to throw, and you can use snakes too. I have like these flexi snakes off the end of the tripod that actually open up so you can actually throw the camera out further. So it's fabulous, you know. So this is one of the greatest things that I've come up with. The lighting, and then the switcher. If I go in here and show you what this is all about, I can show you this. This right here is the ATEM switcher. It's software. It looks very intimidating, but don't let it intimidate you. Here's the media. aspect of it. You can put media and pitches and things if you wanted to do that. And then here's the mixer. So right now I have my voice and I have the piano. So, and I can adjust. You know, and his camera setups, and you know, so it's pretty sophisticated. But I have it set up, and I never touch it. I never touch it now. So now once it's set and it's good to go. So now I start that up, and it's just a wonderful device. So that's pretty much my setup. I'm also using a monitor up front. It was $80. I recently got that. I stick it down inside my piano because when you're filming, what they do in television is they use prompters, and so when you see the news people or talking, they're reading prompters, and the camera's right above it. Right now, I'm still kind of looking down because my camera's 6.5 feet away. It's in front of my piano here, so it's coming down. But it's a great thing. So I have my monitor down inside my piano, and that was like $80, and it's so good. It's so light. It has a little stand, so you could use that as a way to monitor with the ATEM. So the ATEM, $300. You get you get that for another $80. So that's $400. You get a couple of cameras. So for $600, you could have totally the state-of-the-art kind of scene. It really is. It's that affordable, which is in the big picture is really different. And then see the difference that this curtain makes is just phenomenal. I mean, the difference in seeing this or seeing this. You see what I'm saying? The distraction is there. So now, when this goes up, it's all, I just hook it, and what you can do with that is how you can do it. You get a mic stand, and you balance a curtain rod with a piece of felt on it, and you just balance it in the middle so it stays behind you, and now you get a backdrop, so when you're talking to people, they're not looking at something off on the side, so it can be very distracting.
Hey, Dan.
Go ahead, another question.
We got another question from P-Wen. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly.
Okay.
She asks, can you repeat again the name/brand of the mic you are wearing?
Oh, yes. It's called Power, Dewise. I found it on Amazon for $45. And the great thing about this one is it's a pretty long cord to begin with, but it comes with this extension cord on it. Man, it's like, so this thing could be like 15 feet long. So it's really been great, and the quality, I was ready to spend $200 or $300 on a wired lapel. The problem with my Sennheiser is it has a light when the battery goes out, but when the battery starts going out, it starts pulsing and knocking and giving me distortion in so it's kind of a drag, but these are great. I mean, but you don't need to spend $300 or $400 on a Sennheiser when you can get this thing for $45, and you can hear my voice coming through really nice. So hopefully, that's the other thing. When you do these live streams, you never know. You never know how the piano's coming through and everything. But I think I figured it all out, and I spent a lot of time refining this. More questions? Think we're all good? Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any in the chat.
Okay, Alex, good seeing you, bud. Yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
He's one of my prize students. Been with me a long time. Yeah. Yeah, it's very nice to see the support of, and again, I explained it to my students that what they could benefit from seeing this is you are going to, Alex is a seasoned player. He's teaching, for example. This is an opportunity for him to see how he knows all this stuff. He can play. He can really play. When he gets a classical player in front of him, it's your job to break it down to the classical pianist to be able to see this thing and be able to know that I can do this. It's very, very important to be able to have these skills. And it's something that I hope I've done a good enough job for you all to see this. But again, I moved very, very fast because I have some advanced players here too. So I wanted to cover a broad spectrum. But you have to understand, I would have, as a beginning jazz student or popular player, I would have loved to be able to see where things are going. See how these big clusters when you play Moon River. And see where things are going to go in the piano and how you can create and be inventive, So it's kind of like looking down, and seeing kind of light at the end of the tunnel, And everyone needs that. I don't care. Even myself now at my level, I hear great players, and I'm kind of, wow, man, let's see what that's all about. You know, so that's part of being an eternal learner. You know, you really have to kind of constantly put it out there. But this is a tough business to be in, and this goes back to my friend Joe Costello. It's like he knows this as good as anyone, because he's been a very successful agent and musician. And I'm speaking on the behalf of all musicians out there. I'm writing books, I'm doing these seminars, you know, and you know, I'm giving my time to sit there and reach people, and hopefully someone here that's in the group here would want to study with me, and then it's a great thing. You know, I'm able to share what I do. This is how I reach my students, and when my students come, they never leave, you know. Alec's been with me for years. I mean, and Coco's another one. I see Coco in here, another long time. Susan. I mean, all these people that have studied with me are they stick around. You know, I guess they see the value, and they see the growth, and the convenience and all. So so that's what I'm doing. But I'm constantly building, and you have to constantly, don't be afraid to take the next leap. Give your time up. That's the other advice I'd tell any player out there or teacher. Give your time. Like I'll say, anyone here, you want to meet with me for a Zoom privately, 100%. No commitment, nothing. You know, let me explain to it. This is how you market yourself. This is what the business is all about. You know, it's you have to give a little to get the return. You know, and so I guess that we kind of went way over here. And again, I'm sorry I went a little over, but I really wanted to. You know, I could talk about this all day long, because it's a passion of mine. And hope you found this interesting. This is again, Moon River. It's cool, you know, to see the breakdown, melodic displacement. As simple as melodic, just moving the melody around, coming in early or a delay can make your playing sound from, you know, intermediate to an advanced kind of sound, you know. So little things that I've been doing this 45 years, and I'm just happy to share it all with you. And stay tuned for the, if you stay, you know, I have everyone's email. Anyone wants to follow up with me, please email me direct. And in the future, I'll be sure to notify anyone for any other the other seminars coming up. I got some really fun stuff, you know. I haven't scheduled it yet, but I intend to do it. This was very exciting for me to see. I had a crowd, you know, to talk to. So it's and it's my first virtual one. Thanks to Bijan for being here to kind of field the questions and make sure everything's cool. And I really appreciate it. So anyway. Unless there's any more questions, I guess we'll call it a day. And thank you all for coming, and we'll hope to see you again.